So when it was in blast for days and days and days and days and probably weeks. Then it would go dormant, and they would, in some cases, clean out the stack. They would restock, the ore, the charcoal, the limestone. And then, interestingly enough, we have accounts of the skilled workers that were Europeans who replaced the enslaved. They would move to other furnaces and work while this furnace was not in blast. So a forgeman, as an example, he would finish here, and then he would move up to Pine Grove furnace, or he would move up to Codorus. We assume, because we have accounts of the enslaved individuals being rented out, that the owners were doing the same thing with the enslaved population. Again, they're highly skilled. They're not going to, if you have a forgeman who is, in charge of that, the forge operation, you're not going to, have him or her, him out, taking care of the horses. You're going to rent him out to another furnace who is in blast so that you can get, revenue for his skills.
I know you were starting to do the DNA studies in the cemetery. Were the enslaved here from one particular area? Was there a way to kind of centralize that or focus that?
So our DNA study is just, we're in our 12th year. And of course, it's a very long and very complicated and very difficult process. But our initial results have been very, very informative. 12 years ago when we started, we had no descendants of the African Americans, enslaved or free, who labored here. Now we have a family in Hagerstown that we've been able to link using DNA, and a very large family that we have been able to link using historical research. And so those two families are definitely Catoctin families, and they're related to us. To the furnace. And there will be many more. We know just in our 23andMe database, we have nearly 3,000 direct descendants and 42,000 collateral or deep time descendants. So finding the descendant community is our job one. We've been saying that and pursuing that, as I said, for 12 years. And we're still in that process. But the flip side of that is the transatlantic nostalgia. The African American community wants to know that, I'm a European, I'm of European ancestry, so I can go back to Germany or back to Great Britain, and I can walk into a little church and I can see, if I want to, the baptism records from 400 years ago. That privilege is afforded to me, but that privilege is not afforded to the descendants of enslaved Africans who were brought here and whose legacy was then purposely eliminated. People that were brought, say they were from the same village, they were very often and usually split up because the owners didn't want them to be able to communicate freely, because that was considered, a security risk for the owners. So we are trying to find the villages, the areas, the ethno-linguistic areas in Africa from which our enslaved came. And we have success already. There we have two individuals who are from specific areas where the Wolof were located, and individuals from areas where the Congo were. These are individuals who are only related to one or two ethno-linguistic groups, so it appears that they came over very recently to the time that they unfortunately died and were buried at our cemetery. But then we have an example of a neonate. He's less than 6 months old, and he is related to 9 ethno-linguistic groups spread from one end. Africa is a huge continent, and so his ethno-linguistic matches are from one end of Africa to the other, to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south. So it appears that he is descended from people who were here in the New World for several generations, intermarrying and therefore he is then related to all these ethno-linguistic groups, as opposed to a more recent a more recent arrival who is only related to one or two ethno-linguistic groups.